End of 15 turns or 5 hours of action. The Prussians still haven't made it into the town held by the Wartenburgers. As you can see, their assaults sort of got repulsed back from the last round, and consequently they're fleeing, but hopefully they'll rally up. Here in the woods, back and forth, Italian counterattack column threw back the Prussians, but the Prussians are pressing forward and engaging the Italian skirmishers. And over here, it's just one big massive fire volley across the dike. It's getting messy. Last casualties. The French are now at 20% loss. Both these Prussian brigades are at 20, one's at 40. They're functionally useless almost. But interesting, the total of the army morale for the French side is starting to show near fatigue levels here. End of turn 17. As you can see, the Italians and the Prussian 8th Brigade are fighting it out in the woods. They just assaulted and threw back the Milan Guard, which is fallen back here, led by their fearless leader. Something about shooting meatballs was this joke of the Greek gaming group here. And pretty much zero effect in musketry, apparently. Otherwise, the poor Prussian 2nd Brigade, I think, is tossing in the hat round here. I don't think they're going to get into the town. Looks like the Wartenburgers are going to hold. And then on the far sector of the field, down the long road here, a Prussian dead. Well, this is just becoming into a slaughter pen out here. Finally, the Prussian landwehr just couldn't take it anymore. There wasn't too many more regulars left, so the Silesian landwehr basically routed out. They're fleeing the field now. Von York is coming up trying to rally his fleeing guys. Where's Blucher? Well, we all know where Blucher is. He's back here, someplace off the edge of the board. I don't know, someplace out there, I don't know. Across the river. End of turn 17. End of turn 18, or 6 hours of fighting. Wartenburgers are safely ensconced in the village. The likelihood of any attacks are pretty minimal. Prussians are dug in on the other side. Since this is a river crossing scenario, it's always good to be in the the flea-bitten malaria area here at the lowlands. Here the Italians are getting bundled out of the woods pretty sharply. Even the Milan Guard is a bit shaken up. Out here it's just death and destruction. The wreckage of 2 Prussian brigades. It's still fleeing. York is trying to stave. But they're saying, who's the old man? Where's Blucher? I don't know. Who's older? Blucher or York?
York, I think. No.
As you see, the remains here just along the dike. Both of the Prussian brigade commanders have fallen in this game. The replacements. End of 18 turns. Turn 19. Obviously the Prussians aren't getting any further on this flank. It's just a little skirmishing snipe action along the riverbank. Here the Italians are just getting bundled out of the woods slowly. Big Prussian battalions are having some effect. And of course the Italians are a little bit weaker in morale and combat abilities. Over here this fight's pretty much ended. Desultory skirmisher fire. French can't get much further forward because they have defend orders, so they got to stay within the radius, which is basically along the dike. A couple of the Prussian fleeing landwehr battalions have rallied up. The elderly General York, but others, of course, as you can see, have now disappeared. These commands are totally shattered. One's 60% lost, the other one's 40% effectiveness. They're totally useless for any further combative action. So it doesn't look like this is going to be a big victory for the Prussians. Well, here on turn 20, the sneaky Italians rummaging through the French commander's baggage wagon, locate their secret weapon, the French heroic or Allied heroic card here, which ups the morale and combat abilities of a selected unit. So they craftively played the card before the enemy thought of it, or basically never thought of the Prussian model of it, equivalency. So here this Italian battalion will be up 2 or 2 better on its defensive capabilities against that Prussian attack. And to turn 20. Exactly 1 turn left in the scenario after this. As you can see, the Prussians are being totally held up here. They're just sort of holding their little flank. Another Prussian brigade commander is dropped in the woods. That's now 3 in this game. 3 out of the initial 4. We're still pushing back the Italians. As you can see, the Hessian cavalry, the Westphalian Garde du Corps, Lancers, Chevalier, and the Hessian cavalry has arrived. Just to, I guess, back up the Italians. Over here it's just gone neutral. Prussians are just holding their little river line, or actually stream line in this case. End of 21st turn and the end of the game. As you can see in a quick summary, the Wartenburgers are ensconced in the village here, reasonably intact. The cavalry is at 40% loss, but the infantry is pretty much fresh, took a couple hits. Prussian 2nd Brigade, they're at 20% loss, but shot up, almost 40, but not enough strength to punch through. The Prussian 8th Brigade just went over the 20% loss marker in their last assault just before the close, cleared the edge of the woods. True to form, my little Milan Guard unit was the last to fire the last volley here of the battle. And the rest of the Prussian army, well, the 1st and the 7th Brigades, as you can see by the bodies, pretty much they're just lining out there. Their remnants are here, just scattered here and there. They're both hurting. One's at 40, the other's at 60. They're going to have a little bit of a morale effect when it comes to Leipzig in about 2 weeks' time. So, from the Prussian point of view, that's the summary where they got to. Their reserves never got on the board because neither town actually fell as per the victory conditions to release them to do their ride to get off the edge of the board. For the French summary, as you can see, the 12th Division still holding, a bit shattered, bodies all over the place, just like the mix of all the Prussians. But they're holding the town. They got over 20% loss. They're approaching probably 30 actually. Prussians are in the distance. Italians just reached 20% literally as nightfall fell. So they hammered home on this Prussian 8th Brigade to an even draw here on the edge of the woods. The Hessian cavalry, i.e. the Westphalian Chevalier and the Hessian cavalry, has just arrived and they're just coming out of strategic mode, going into battle, but it's nightfall. And as we saw earlier, the Westphalians, sorry, not the Westphalians, the Wartenburgers, pretty much the star of the show here. They held the crucial flank march route, and it pretty much sealed the Prussian fate, because there's no way they would have gone over the dike with just 2 brigades. It's really a strategic game. You decide as a Prussian which way you go. You send 3 brigades one way and have the other one holding as a holding action. The 2 and 2 concept didn't work today. Almost. You got over the dike, got into the French lines, just didn't have that last battalion to punch it up. So this ends the Battle of Wartburg, at least this scenario version of it. We'll surely repeat this again sometime.